Hello everyone, Gaara here once again for another Knights of the Frozen Throne card review. There's so many brand new cards to talk about, so without further ado, let's get right into it. The very first card I want to talk about today, it is a 6 mana 6/5 neutral dragon, Bone Drake, Death Rattle, add a random dragon to your hand. So the average mana cost of dragons is really high in standard after the Blackrock Mountain rotation happened. So this card has a very valuable Death Rattle effect. 6 mana 6/5 are not the most horrible stats, so this card has a lot of value stuffed into it. There's a very high chance to get 8 or 9 mana dragon from this card, or even Deathwing. So this card will definitely see play in dragon decks and in Death Rattle decks. So overall, very solid card. Yeah, we'll see play. So the next card we have is Webweave. It is a 5 mana spell. It summons 2/1/2 poisonous spiders. Basically, you can look at these spiders as stubborn gastropods without taunt. A little bit weaker than summoning 2 of those guys. And 2 of those guys would cost 4 mana, but they don't have taunt. So basically, against aggressive decks, they would just ignore it, and then you have to trade into them. And it's very weak to AoE effect of control decks. So overall, I think it is a bad card and it won't see any play just because we have access to better cards. From what I've heard is that Blizzard said when they tested this card for 4 mana it was too strong. So I'm very curious about that, because for now this card seems very unplayable. The next card we have is a 4 mana neutral minion, Saronite Chain Gang. It is a 2/3 minion. Taunt, Battlecry, summon a copy of this minion. So this minion is basically a 1 mana better Feral Spirits, but you forfeit the tempo of Feral Spirits, which you can get out for 3 mana. So I would say it is roughly half a mana better than Feral Spirits, but it is a much better standalone card. So a little bit slower, a little bit cheaper, but it is a neutral minion, and the best part about this card is it benefits from hand buff mechanics, which makes this card very powerful. So if you buff this minion alone, +1/+1 in your hand, suddenly you have 2 3/4s for 4 mana, which is really good with taunt on top of it. So for Paladin and for Warrior, pretty good, and maybe even for Hunter, who knows. Hunter lacks good taunt 4-drops, or just 4-drops in general. Besides the Houndmaster. Anyways, besides that, pretty solid card overall. It also has great synergy with Evolve, great synergy with Flame Tongue Totem, so in Shaman this might see play, but even in Druid with all the buff cards, very interesting, has a lot of synergies. I can predict this card will see a lot of play in a lot of different decks. Aggro, Control, this card yeah, seems to be playable in a lot of different decks. Solid card overall. The next card we have is a 5 mana Warlock card. It is a Despicable Dreadlord. It's a 5 mana 4/5 demon tag on top of it. At the end of your turn, deal 1 damage to all enemy minions. So it is a permanent ongoing effect. If you decide for whatever reason to not get rid of this guy, bam, he will just keep damaging all your stuff. Very powerful minion. So basically an included Whirlwind effect, which is better, I would say, than Whirlwind, because it just damages the opponent's board, and it is a permanent effect. So this card is definitely more worth than 5 mana. I would say it is worth at least 6 mana, like 1 mana reduced or increased power level, or whatever you want to call it. Overall, very powerful card, but unfortunately it is a Warlock card. It is a Warlock control card. It doesn't fit into Zoo decks, just because I feel like it is worse than Doomguard. So yeah, in a control Warlock deck, but we don't really have any control Warlock deck, this card definitely helps the archetype. If it sees any play, then it will see play in a control-ish type of deck. The next card we have is another very playable neutral minion. It is a Happy Ghoul, 3 mana 3/3, costs 0 if your hero was healed this turn. So finally Priest gets a very good 2-drop, and it is a neutral one, so super excited about this one. Who can play this besides Priest? Paladin might potentially be able to play this, but besides that, I mean, it definitely has some synergy. Interesting, it's a very good card. It has synergy with all healing pretty much. It buffs other neutral minions, like the Farseer for example. If you can tempo out another 3-drop, that's huge. It buffs all the healing in the game, all existing healing in the game, just because you can tempo out minions. Very interesting card. I'm very positive about this card to see play, because a 0 mana 3/3 is as good as it gets right now. Yeah, very powerful. We'll see play. Interesting to see in what kind of decks we will see this card being played, but in Priest the very least. The next card we have is a Paladin class card. It is Blackguard. It is a 6 mana 3/9. Whenever your hero is healed, deal that much damage to a random enemy. So right now the average stats of 6 drops are 5 attack and 5 health. So when we look at that, this card has 2 stats above average because of combined stats of 12. And on top of it, it has a very, very positive effect. When you look at cards like Leon Hands, right? If you can set up this minion, and this card is no slouch, because getting rid of a 9 health minion is definitely not easy. So, and you can buff this card on top of it with cards like Spikeridge Steed, and then it's like an unstoppable force, right? And then when you decide to heal yourself with Forbidden Healing, you can get rid of pretty much any minion of any size. Or this buffs cards like Leon Hands, which usually just heals yourself, but you have to give up so much tempo in exchange, which is usually very rough. But because of this card, and you can run this card even twice in your deck, there's absolutely no problem with just healing yourself. I think this card, I don't know if this card is underrated right now, but this card is very powerful in my opinion, because finally you can heal yourself without getting punished. Even cards like Holy Light that just heal yourself for 6 can take out a big minion, because this will always hit a minion. I think this card is extremely powerful. We'll definitely see play. I will play it myself. I'm very excited to test around with this card. What I'm super excited about is that cards like Forbidden Healing, which don't have a lot of value if you play against a control deck, right? Because they don't really target your health pool, and then they're just there. With this card, you can just heal yourself and take out a big minion without any drawback, because the stats of this card are just so good. Great card, will definitely see play. And with that said, let's transition right into the Paladin hero card. It is Uther of the Ebon Blade. It is a 9 mana card. Battlecry, equip a 5/3 weapon with lifesteal. Oh my god, this is unbelievably powerful. So how much mana would we rate or give to a weapon that has this effect? Lifesteal. So basically this card will heal for 15, and it is a 5/3 weapon. So it is a better version of, it is basically an Ashbringer, but it is better than Arcanite Reaper, and Arcanite Reaper costs currently 5 mana, so maybe a 6 mana weapon. A 6 mana weapon and lifesteal for 15 over 3 turns, but it still heals for 15. So the heal is also worth like 5 mana. So almost Reno Jackson. 5 mana worth of healing. Yeah, that's like nothing that heals you for that much. Priest has a card that heals you for 12 currently, and it costs 4 mana. So I would say you get roughly around 3 heal per mana. That sounds about right. So I would say 15 heal worth 5 mana, and a 5/3 weapon which is worth 6 mana. Just the weapon alone is worth like 10 mana. It's really, really powerful, is what I'm trying to say. And you gain 5 armor on top of it, which is always like worth 1 mana. So basically just this effect is already worth its mana cost of 9, just to get the super weapon. But on top of it, you get the 4 Horsemen hero power, which is just a power upgrade of the normal recruit. You have for the rest of the game 2/2 tokens, which is really powerful. And if you're not sold yet, we don't just get the best weapon in game for only a discount price of 9 mana. No. On top of it, we get the super horses for just 2 mana. Infinite amount. And if you're not sold yet, if you don't want to buy it yet, if you don't want to play it yet, on top of it, if you at any point of the game get 4 horses on the board, You just win! Exodia Paladin! What? This card is absolutely ridiculously powerful. I will 100% play this card. It's very, 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 very good. Next. Last but not least, we have a Druid 2-drop, which is super exciting. All cheap cards are always super exciting, especially if they are playable. It is a 2 mana 1/2 with the choose one effect, either transform it into a 1/2 poisonous minion or a 1/5 with taunt. So what makes this card good is definitely the flexibility, because there's already a card in the game that I showed earlier, the Stubborn Gastropod, and it is just a better card because it has taunt on top of the poisonous effect. But nobody's playing the Stubborn Gastropod in their decks. But since we are getting a taunt ramp druid archetype, we might be more inclined to play taunt minions. You will probably not play the Druid of the Swarm, because I can imagine that if you choose the 1/5 taunt, this doesn't count as a taunt minion that died, if I'm not mistaken. Like, we haven't played a card yet, but cards like Ancient of War, if you would summon them out of the deck, it only looks at the neutral body or the natural body, so it would just summon a 5/5 body, for example, if you pull it from your hand or whatever. And if it dies, I think it doesn't die in the taunt form. Maybe it does, I don't know. If I choose this as a 1/5 taunt, and then I can resummon the 1/5 taunt, that's pretty powerful. It might work this way. I'm not quite sure about the mechanics in this case. But our 2 mana 1/5 taunt is very powerful. Do we have anything like this? Poor Silverback Patriarch. It's getting worse and worse. 2 mana 1/5 taunt is so much better than 1/2 poisonous. As you can see, we have already one. But we don't have a 2 mana 1/5 taunt in the game. We have the Tark Reaper, which is a 3/5 taunt for 3 mana. I think this card is very, very powerful. Yeah, you would choose the poisonous in late game against a control deck, so you can just kill it. Just overall, very solid card. The flexibility definitely pushes the viability of this card. It definitely works also with Fandral Stackhelm, which is a nice little buff to a card which you pretty much play in all Druid versions except Aggro Druid. And if you're curious, it will make this card 1/5 taunt with poisonous, because the individual effect is either gain poisonous or +3 health and taunt. So people who believe that you get a 2/7 taunt or something like this, just so you know, you get a 1/5 poisonous taunt. Solid card, we'll see play. Next. And the final card of today's review, it is Malfurion the Pestilent. It is the Druid Death Knight card. It is a 7 mana card with the effect choose 1, summon 2 poisonous spiders or 2 scarabs with taunt. Apparently I can leave this little snail up for the entire video, because there's so many cards today that spawn 1/2 minions with poisonous. That card is very interesting, and let me tell you why. I don't know if this card is playable just yet, because there was Justica in the game, and what Justica did for Druid was change the hero power into a better hero power that gives you 2 attack and 2 health, or 2 armor, and a 6/3 body for 6 mana. So for 1 more mana, you get a very similar hero power. Arguably better, arguably worse, because you have to choose between 3 armor and 3 attack, and Druid doesn't really benefit from the armor, because you don't really have cards that synergize with armor, at least for now. But 3 attack is nice to take out smaller minions. I would say that in the meta, like, we didn't play Justica in Druid at all. There were just a few meme decks in Reno Druid decks you were running Justica, but in the currently existing archetypes, you would not run this card in Jade Druid. It just doesn't have any purpose in that deck, and you would not run this card in Aggro Druid. Probably, right? A better hero power is not too bad, but getting 2 bodies on the board for 7 mana might make the cut. It depends, because it would also give you this additional survivability. It's interesting. It probably is too slow in an aggressive Druid deck. But yeah. 2 Scarabs with Taunt, that is the interesting part. The reason why Justica was so bad is obviously because of the body. 6 mana, 6/3 is for Druid bad, because Druid has no comeback. Now Druid got much better early game, much better clears, much better taunt minions, much better survivability, and if you can stall the game into late game, you really benefit from an infinite hero power. And Druid has much better health gain in terms of armor with the Earthen Scales and the Feral Rages and now this card, so you can utilize or exchange your life pool for just taking out minions with this Plague Lord. So having like free attack permanently as a hero power might not be too bad. It was bad before as a +2 health, +2 damage, but for now because all the control decks and all the decks that are played also have early game now. For example, Control Mage plays Archaeologist and Mana Worms and stuff. Paladin has Hydrologist and smaller minions, you know, Aldo Peacekeeper, Stonehill Defenders. There's a lot of minions you can kill. And because of that fact, Priest has also a bunch of smaller minions, Warriors has a bunch of smaller minions. Because of that, this card might make the cut. 7 mana is pretty cheap. It gives you immediate survivability because of the 2 bodies on the board, and the 5 armor, and a better hero power. Because of all those facts combined, I think this card will see play. I think you really can't ignore the 5 armor as well, which you get from this card, because it really helps you survive, right? It is not just like Justica. Justica was very slow, it doesn't give immediate survivability. This card gives you actual immediate survivability in terms of health regeneration, in terms of armor. It gives you a better hero power long term wise to take out Flame Tongue totems, Mana Tide totems. Free attack is a really big deal compared to 2 attack. And for late game, against other control decks, you would choose the Poisonous Spiders, and against aggressive decks, you would choose the 2 Scarabs, and against Taunt. Just imagine you play against a Pirate Warrior, and for 7 mana, because you ramp up as Druid, you will get this card out quite fast. You have 2 big Taunt minions, and armor, and a better hero power. I think this card is good, just because of how defensive this card can be. I think this card will see play definitely in ramp Druid versions, in Taunt, the new Taunt Druid. This card might even make the card in aggressive Druid. It is uncertain yet, just because of the tokens you get on the board and your aggressive hero power afterwards. I think this card is solid. Not as good as some of the other hero cards, but definitely powerful, and I would say it will definitely see play. And that's it for today's video. Thank you guys so much for watching. Stay tuned for tomorrow, where all the final cards will be revealed. So that's gonna be a very long video, because there's still like more than 30 cards that have to be announced yet. Love you guys to death, and see you guys tomorrow. Peace!